What if the loneliest years of your life were also quietly making you extraordinary? Not in a way anyone around you could see, not in a way that showed up on a report card or got you applause, but deep inside your brain, in the way you read people, feel things, and make sense of the world. Psychology is starting to uncover something fascinating about people who spent a lot of time alone as kids. And if that was you, this video might explain a lot about who you became. We tend to look back at childhood loneliness as something that simply hurt, and it did. That part is real and worth acknowledging. But here's what rarely gets talked about. When a child spends significant time alone, whether by circumstance, by environment, or just by nature, the brain doesn't sit idle. It adapts. It builds. Psychologists studying childhood development have found that solitude in early life, especially when paired with a rich inner world, tends to produce adults with unusually deep emotional processing, strong self-awareness, and a rare ability to understand people in ways that most others simply can't. What you're about to hear isn't about celebrating pain. It's about understanding what that pain may have quietly built inside you. Here are 10 psychological traits commonly found in adults who were lonely as children. Number 1. You became an expert at reading people. When you spend a lot of time on the outside of social groups, you naturally become an observer. You study how people interact. You notice who holds power in a room. You pick up on shifts in energy, tone, and body language that most people completely miss. This is called social pattern recognition, and psychologists have found it develops most sharply in children who weren't embedded in constant social activity. Instead of participating, you watched, and watching, it turns out, is one of the most powerful ways the brain learns. Number 2. You developed a rich and vivid inner world. Children who spend time alone don't just sit in boredom. Their minds build stories, scenarios, entire worlds that exist only inside their imagination. Research in developmental psychology suggests that children who engage in a high level of solitary imaginative play develop stronger creative cognition, better narrative thinking, and a more flexible relationship with ideas. In adulthood, this often shows up as creativity, an ability to think abstractly, and a tendency to see possibilities that others overlook entirely. The loneliness gave your mind space, and your mind used that space to grow. Number 3. You feel other people's pain almost as if it were your own. This one surprises people. You might assume that someone who was isolated would be less connected to others emotionally, but the research actually points in the opposite direction. Children who experienced loneliness often develop what psychologists call heightened empathic sensitivity. Because belonging felt precious and rare to you, you never took other people's emotional experiences for granted. You learned to truly listen, to feel alongside people, rather than just near them. Adults who grew up lonely often become the most caring friends, the most patient partners, and the most emotionally present people in any room. Number 4. You became deeply self-sufficient. When you couldn't always rely on others for entertainment, comfort, or companionship, you learn to generate those things from within yourself. Psychologists refer to this as internalized resilience, the ability to regulate your own emotions, create your own motivation, and function independently without constant external validation. This doesn't mean you don't want connection. It means that even when connection isn't available, you don't fall apart. You've been training that muscle your entire life without even realizing it. Pause for just a moment here. Everything we've covered so far, the ability to read people, the rich inner world, the empathy, the self-reliance, none of these are coincidences. They are the specific, measurable output of a brain that had to grow in a particular kind of environment. And what's worth sitting with is this: the brain doesn't waste experience, even experiences that hurt, especially experiences that hurt. Let's keep going, because the next signs go even deeper. Number 5. You think before you speak. Almost always, adults who grew up lonely often describe a habit of mentally rehearsing what they're going to say before they say it, of carefully choosing words, of pausing where others would just react. This isn't anxiety, though it can look like it from the outside. It's a deeply practiced form of social deliberation. When social moments felt rare or high stakes as a child, your brain learned to treat them with care. That habit stayed with you. The result? You tend to be a more thoughtful communicator than almost anyone around you. Number 6. You handle uncertainty better than most people. Lonely childhoods are often unpredictable ones. Maybe you didn't always know who would be there for you, or whether a social situation would go well or fall apart. Living inside that uncertainty taught your nervous system something remarkable. It taught you to function without guarantees. Psychologists who study stress tolerance have found that individuals who faced early social unpredictability often develop a higher threshold for ambiguity in adulthood. Change doesn't break you. Unknowns don't paralyze you. You've already lived inside uncertainty, and you learn to move through it. Number 7. You're drawn to depth over surface. Small talk has never really been your thing, has it? People who grew up spending a lot of time in their own mind develop a strong preference for meaningful conversation, deep topics, and real connection over casual pleasantries. Psychologists link this to what's called need for cognition, an intrinsic drive to think deeply and engage with complex ideas. Your years of internal dialogue trained your brain to seek substance. Shallow interactions don't just bore you. They feel almost disconnecting, like speaking a language that isn't quite yours. Number 8. You carry a quiet but intense search for meaning. This one runs deep. Adults who were lonely as children often grow into people who are profoundly motivated by meaning, in their work, in their relationships, in how they spend their time. When you spent early years without the constant distraction of social noise, you were left alone with bigger questions. Why am I here? What actually matters? What kind of person do I want to be? Most people don't confront those questions until much later in life, if ever. You were asking them at 10 years old. That kind of early philosophical thinking tends to produce adults with unusually clear personal values and an almost uncommon sense of purpose. Number 9. When you love deeply and loyally. Because connection felt rare and precious growing up, you never learned to treat it casually. People who experienced childhood loneliness often form fewer, but far more profound adult relationships. They are the friends who remember what you said 3 months ago. The partners who show up without being asked. The people who make others feel genuinely, completely seen. Research on attachment psychology suggests that individuals who longed for connection early in life often become the most devoted and emotionally attuned people in their relationships, provided they've done the inner work to trust again. And number 10, you never stopped growing. Perhaps the most defining trait of all, people who were lonely as children develop an almost automatic habit of self-reflection. Because you spent so much time inside your own mind, you became intimately familiar with your own patterns, your own contradictions, your own potential. That self-awareness is the foundation of every form of real growth, and it means you are, often without realizing it, someone who never truly stops evolving. Childhood loneliness was never the whole story. It was a chapter, a difficult one, but one that, for many people, quietly wrote something extraordinary into who they became. The empathy you carry, the way you think, the depth with which you love and feel and question. These didn't happen to you by accident. They were built, slowly, quietly, and completely, by a mind that had no choice but to grow. And that mind, it's still growing now. If you found yourself relating to this, just click the video on your screen. Your brain will never be the same again. You'll see what I mean. It adds a whole new perspective that really stays with you.